Alright, hello friends. Today we do introduction to the first Contingency podcast because me and good friend here, we have decided to have a conversation about equipment and gear and share it with you. There's no reason that you shouldn't be listening. You should be listening and you should be subscribed. If you're not subscribed, go down, hit that little button because the algorithm runs our goddamn lives. This is why we go out in the zone. We are sick of the bloody algorithm. Suka. Alright. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Eugenicus. I have my own little channel that's kind of similar to this one. I do a lot of outdoorsing stuff, camping challenges, and zone stalking kind of stuff. And not much else to say about it besides that. I hope you guys enjoy what we got.
Yeah, today we're going to start off discussion with gear and equipment. One of the things I wanted to ask is, do you use very much for plate carrier or sustainment gear when you're out there? In terms of weight, what do you think is the optimum?
Now, I am a huge fan of the plate carrier setup in particular. I've been a lot of places, done a lot of things, and more than once ended up on the wrong side of somebody hunting or target shooting in an area where they shouldn't be. And so I just kind of use the plate carrier for everything now.
No, really, for everything?
Yeah, pretty much for everything. It's not optimal, but I've decided that it's one of those rather have it and not need it kind of deals.
That sounds heavy. Do you use level 4
It
plates
is
in there
heavy.
or what?
I actually use polyethylene level 3 plates, so it's only 6 pounds for both of them,
Oh, that's
for
not
both
bad.
front and back. It's not bad at all, and I have polyethylene side plates as well, although I don't really use those for anything.
I
Yeah,
mean, when it comes up, you need them, right?
yeah, it's not a bad thing to throw into a backpack anyway, but I've gotten so used to using the same kit for literally everything all of the time that I find it really hard to get away from it unless I'm using like specialty gear. A great example, right? So you know those old Type 56 like SKS chest rigs, right? The old ones.
Yeah.
They fit Glock mags perfectly, and I am I enjoy the worst things ever. So I use a Celtic Sub 2000 for like a get home bag kind of deal, and I want that to be super light and super cheap. So because of that, I'll use like a chest rig kind of thing for that. But for pretty much everything else, it's a plate carrier.
And how far are you generally hiking when you go out?
Oh god. So a lot of the times around here, I'm not actually doing too much hiking. I use a lot of boat trips to get to where I need to, and then I'll spend a couple of days in like deserted islands. But up and coming, I'm going to be doing a 72-hour pack, and I actually want to hike about 60 miles with it and see how well it holds up over that distance.
Oh,
So
Soka, that's going
that'll
to be a
get.
very long trip.
It will be a long trip, and it's going to be annoying. Actually, have you ever heard of the Interwoods? What is the Fugitive Challenge?
I have heard of the Fugitives Challenge. I've not done the Fugitives Challenge, though.
Well, that is on my my to-do list, so I might knock out both of them at the same time.
Oh, that sounds like it could be fun.
It could be.
With a plate carrier, that's going to be a very long hike.
Well, with the 72-hour pack kind of deal, I don't think I'm gonna be using a plate carrier for that. But also just because part of the challenge is I think I'm allowed to use like $20 for kit or something, and the plate carrier way blows outside of that budget, so I'm not gonna bring one anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah, for myself, I generally try to use sustainment gear. I have plate carrier. I have plates, of course, but where I live, everyone and their mother seems to have plates. But I find that when I'm doing these 1, 2, 3 mile hikes, which I have done, last winter I did a 1/2 mile hike in, 1/2 mile hike out. Plate carrier becomes a pretty serious problem when you're doing these longer distance hikes, especially if you're not likely to see any sort of engagement, which I'm not out here. Out here, it's generally abandoned mines and abandoned industrial facilities, and there's very few people out here. And when there are people out here, you can usually hear them from a pretty good distance away because they have to drive in. So you can hear their engine from a good distance away, or if they're talking, you can definitely hear a good distance away. And if they're shooting, you can definitely hear it from the next ridge over. So you can be pretty careful about being uprange, downrange from people.
Right. And my part of the country, which is way different from yours, we don't have like national forests to go do things in, right? We don't have abandoned facilities or mines or anything. It's almost all entirely urban. And I made the mistake earlier this year, I did another video called the In a Woods Apocalypse Now challenge, and that one I didn't bring a plate carrier because it didn't fit in the budget, and I went to a designated camping area where you're only allowed to have shotguns and 22s. And this is only important because I went in there and I made my stupid little camp and I was laying there. And in the middle of the day, somebody started opening up with AR-15, a couple of people, and I had no idea where they were shooting from. I had no idea what they were shooting at. I just knew that it was flat in all directions, so there was a pretty good chance I was downrange from them, guessing from how loud it was. So I just had to lay on the ground and wait for it to be over, and they came back later and they had a second volley they let go to. So just like that kind of thing happens fairly often in the areas that I'm in.
This was the video you put out about 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Okay, I remember I watched it. I thought it was actually a pretty good video. I do remember actually watching that one.
Thank you. Well, that's a perfect example of like why I have a plate carrier, because I actually did a let's see, that one was an 8 mile hike in, I believe is what I did for that, and I don't think it would have been that much harder with my particular plate carrier setup. I know a lot of people have heavier stuff than me, but I'm also weirdly tanky. I do a lot of like night vision classes and like daytime classes, and I have it on for like 8-10 hours at a time without taking it off, and it doesn't really bother me.
Well, it just gets really heavy after the first mile or two of the hike is what I found. Of course, I'm also dealing with level 4s whenever I'm going anywhere because as everyone and their mother out here seems to have plates, everyone and their mother out here has green tip too. So if you have some Yahoo shooting for fun, I almost guarantee you they're going to be shooting green tip with a steel core.
Yes. And hopefully I don't catch one of those. Maybe I should get some LBVs and everything. I did actually buy an Alice.
Oh, really?
What are they called? LBV recently? Yeah. I didn't actually buy it to use it. I bought it for another video idea that kind of fell apart because I got caught on the way in. But the I was actually like, wow, this is really comfortable, and maybe I should play around with that a little bit more. I kind of like the old Cold War era stuff because it fucks hard, dude. I like it.
That's fair. It does indeed. I run an H harness right now. I think that's one of the best designs. H harness very similar to an Alice rig, actually. Let me see. What is the name of mine? Real quick, I have to look it up. I did not have that one memorized. I have radiation in brain. But I run a rig that's designed with molly on all the sides and then a back plate of molly sort of that rides up high on the shoulders. And I like that system because when you have a back plate with molly high up on the shoulders, what you get is you get the benefits of being able to carry a effectively like secondary backpack. So you have primary backpack that would normally cover the entire back, but this allows you to split your load between an upper and a lower pack. So the lower pack I can put my IFAK in, and the upper pack I can put as a regular backpack. I believe what it is called is USGI GCS H harness. So I see a number of descriptors here on this bloody thing. Let me see if I can find out specifically which one is the right one. I'll post a picture of it in video. I'll post a picture of it in the video so you can see what I'm talking about. But it is the GCS H harness, which is very similar to an Alice rig, actually.
Gotcha. I was also looking at those, what are they called, the turtle jackets or whatever, South African style. I was thinking about picking one of those up because it seems like it'd be a good do-all, as long as you're not trying to be inconspicuous, you know what I mean? Like when you have one of those things on, you're not hiding from anybody. But it does look like it'd be great for carrying things around for long periods of time and putting a lot of stuff in it.
Well, the reason why... Go ahead.
I was gonna say, as a plate carrier guy, like I'm not used to being under the radar anyway. You know what I mean? Like when I'm walking around, people know exactly what I'm up to.
Fair enough. That's one reason I like the H harness. It's because you can effectively toss all of your crap in it for short distances. 2, 3, 4 miles. So you don't really want to do a day pack in it, but you can. But what I really like about it, and this is why I got it, is because I have to effectively drive long distance up dirt road to get where I'm going whenever I go somewhere. So the GCS H harness, what it allows you to do is you place your magazines on it, your primary magazines, you place your backpack on it, you place your IFAK on it, you place all the gear on it, and then when you get in the car, you can take it all off with 3 buckles instead of needing to take off backpack and then chest rig and then plate carrier all as separate pieces. So being able to doff and don the equipment quickly is really what sort of has priority for me with this particular loadout that I use.
So why didn't you do? You ever tried just throwing a backpack over the top of another rig? Also?
I have, but it takes 2 or 3 times longer in order to get everything settled. So if you're hopping in and out of a vehicle, then you want to be able to get equipment on and off quickly. The other advantage is that you can leave this item in vehicle and you walk around look like normal civilian.
Yeah, that is the challenge that I have a lot of the time. Is I can't make myself look like a normal person.
We're too autistic to be normal people.
No, of course.
Stupid autistic Russian accent, and you do your excellent videos. It's great.
Yeah, if you'd have to be somewhere hard on the spectrum to do the kind of shit that we're doing.
That's probably true. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here's one thing that I wanted to talk about and get your opinion on, or for you to share with people. Your favorite new rifle that has come out in the last couple of years.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Because there has been explosion and innovation in firearms since about 2019, 2018 that was partially driven by pandemic. And there's just a lot of interesting material that's come out since then.
Right. Okay, so my favorite rifle that's, we'll say, modern / postmodern design, it for sure is the IWI Tavor X95. I don't know when the original, I think it first...
That's a pretty old one now, actually. I think the
I thought
IWI...
it started hitting markets. Well, I think the new ones, the X95, I think started hitting service use around 2019 or so.
Really? Is it that recent? I thought it was much older.
Well, there's the TAR. Yeah, the TAR has been around forever, but I think the newest rendition of it's been around a lot shorter than that. Yeah, I'll Google that too.
Yeah, I'm looking that up real quick. In November 2009, X95 was selected as standard issue weapon by Israeli infantry. In September 2021, it was reported that frontline infantry units have begun replacing Tavor and micro Tavor rifles with M4.
Well, damn.
So, designed from 2003 to 2009, enter service in 2009.
Well, it looks like I need to look up on my history a little bit. So
that's fine. I appreciate bullpup. I am not bullpup hater. My previous rifle I used to take on videos was, in fact, a Tavor 7. Chambered in 308, and that was my pandemic gun.
Excellent. Well, let's see. Yeah, I haven't really kept up with what the new trends are. I know that the new Celtic Sub 2000 came out, and as horrible of a gun as that is, it's one of my favorites. So I'm really appreciating the new. Oh yeah, for sure.
And now it has a bunch of baggage with it too since last year or the year before. I forget when.
Yeah, they all do. But this one, I really like the fact that they made it so I can actually put a laser up on top of it, because I do night vision with all of my guns. I actually, who is it? T-Rex Arms made that video of like what's the cheapest you can get into night vision shooting, and I was like, horseshit, I can do it for cheaper. So I built the Celtic Sub 2000 to do night vision work. And the only quirk about it I don't like is the laser placement on the Generation 2. And they made it so I can put a laser on top. So for Generation 3, excellent. It takes a gun I already like and one I already use a lot, and made it easier for me to do the things I like with. I think that's probably the newest gun that came out that I'm happy with what they did with it.
I really need to get night vision set up. So far I've managed to successfully resist the urge to do it, but it's only a few $1,000s.
Well, the hardest part about night vision use isn't getting into it, it's finding other people who have spent money to get into it.
That's also true.
Yeah.
I suppose that's Go on.
It's similar to when we were talking offline about radio use, right? Like, getting into radios is awesome. The hardest part about it is finding other people who will get into radios and learn the stuff they need to learn.
Yeah, it's such a pain in the ass to get into radios. We're going to come back to radios later in the podcast because I have excellent suggestions there. For a rifle, though, real quick, my favorite rifle of the last couple of years, and I will go out on the rooftop and sing its praises, is the Palmetto State Armory Jackal. I have been enormously impressed by that rifle so far.
I got a buddy
Not
with
just
one.
the price point.
Oh yeah, I got a buddy with one, and it's a dream. Well, until you suppress it, and then it spits in my face, and I don't like that. But besides that, it's awesome.
It has a 9-point
Thank you for the
adjustable
price.
gas block.
Yeah, I believe you. I just believe that neither of us figured out how to use it properly.
Okay, well, crank down the gas block is right there. It clicks when you turn it. Just go in there and
Yes,
click until it stops spitting in your face.
there's one
Oh, I
thing
know
you
what you
didn't
did.
consider.
I know what you did. I know what your friend did. Because I did this the first time I fired Jackal also. Is I did not adjust gas block at all.
Yes.
And that means that it is as open as it is. That is the bad scenario. There is gun in the rifle. There is mud in the rifle. There is dirt in the rifle. There is ice in the rifle. So you turn up gas block all the way to ensure it cycles. That is the default setting of Jackal gas block. That's what
Wonderful.
happened.
Yeah, and it was one thing you didn't consider when it comes to the gas block, which is that I am an idiot, and it doesn't immediately stick out to me that it's a thing I can do. I probably won't do it.
That's true. It looks like regular gas block. It does not advertise that it's a 9-position adjustable.
Right, but we'll play with it a little bit more. I think he and I are going to be doing some more classes here coming up soon.
Oh, that sounds like a fun time. But yes, I love the Jackal. I've been enormously impressed with it as an intermediate cartridge rifle. It is lighter than an AK, slightly heavier than an AR, and it has all the benefits of an AK and none of the drawbacks of an AK. So, drawbacks of an AK are that it is very difficult to assemble, disassemble. I'm not talking field strip. I'm talking about really get into the guts of it.
Right.
Because everything's pinned. Then it also, AKs do not suppress well. 9-point adjustable gas block allows you to suppress Jackal. And then it also does not have downsides of AR platform because it has folding stock and it has side charging. So, in general, It's just been a dream to use, and it's the only rifle that I've actually owned where I did not need to zero it when I put a scope on it. I put the scope on it, and it just hits 0. Like video game. Scope go on, you have 0. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And it's
Well,
because
tell me this,
the entire upper receiver is monolithic. That is why.
So here's the fun thing. I have an AR-15, right? Since you brought up the pros and cons of it, right? I have an AR-15. I don't shoot it. To put you how little I've shot it, I took it out for the first time in the 8 years I've had it, about a year ago. Had to take the bolt carrier group out of it for a stupid little thing. Never put it back in, and have not taken the time to find a replacement for the bolt carrier group that I lost. So now I'm like, okay, so I need to get a new one. What do you think? Is it worth my time to just get a 300 blackout upper for it, or to just invest in a Jackal instead?
If I were you, I would just get Jackal instead, because at this point, Jackal with 300 blackout runs you $1,200.
Yeah.
I mean,
fair enough.
That's not as far as rifles go these days. For a rifle of the quality that a Jackal is, $1,200 is an amazing price point. And if you get one in 300 blackout, not only do you have a rifle in 300 blackout, but now you could also get a 223 upper for Jackal for $700 in future if you want to swap rounds.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, because I don't know what to tell you, man. AR-15s just don't tickle my fancy. You know what I mean? Like, I have them because everybody else has them, and I do not shoot them. They bring me no joy.
Yeah, these ones do not spark joy, which is odd. I mean, it is standard gun for many people for a reason, but I'm maybe too much of gun hipster. So is everyone else in my state. It seems nobody has AR-15 except transplants who come here.
Right. And like I said, I only have one because other people have it, and I'm pretty sure most people have it because the military used the M4 forever, and that's really the only reason it adjusted over to the civilian market as well as it did. I will buy a Mini 14 before I buy another AR-15.
Fair enough. Legitimately, I think that military should switch to PSA Jackal. It would be a huge improvement in morale boost. I actually think that PSA Jackal will take over civilian American firearms marketplace, given enough time.
Interesting.
Well, it's just a better rifle.
Well, yeah, but better doesn't mean most people are going to be like, yeah, most people don't care. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's true, but like the actual interested people, I expect many of them to swap over to Jackal once they've tried it.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, it's my friend and I, we both have 1022s as an example. We're both like, why is this like the number one? It sucks. This is one of the worst.
That's the truth.
Yeah, it's like this is like one of the worst 22s that is out there, and everybody has one just because they have one, you know. But I also am, again, just like you and everybody you know, I'm also a gun hipster, and I prefer the AR-7 to the 1022. Takedown in every single thing except for mag capacity.
Well, mag capacity is all. Well, with a 22, mag capacity does not really matter all that much, in my opinion. You're there to have
Unless
fun
you're.
with a 22.
But the difference between the standard BX 25 round magazine and the standard AR-7 8 round magazine is substantial.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like I used to think it was like it didn't matter that much, and then I realized that you fire for 2 or 3 seconds, it feels like, and then you spend 10 minutes reloading them.
Yeah, that isn't optimal if you're going groundhog hunting or something, because you want to ping as many of those little bastards out as fast as possible.
There's one company that makes it a upgraded magazine for it, and I think it's a 15 rounder, and I can't remember exactly how many it is because I've had it on back order for like 8 months now, just so I could test it.
Really?
So, yeah. So on top of the crappy mag capacity of the gun I actually like, if you want to get better magazines or more higher capacity magazines for it, good luck, because it's been a most of a year-long wait just to get basic parts for it.
That is one of the problems that I've been running into is the firearms market sort of exploded in 2020 and it's never recovered. Everybody's after the weird parts. They're all doing their weird YouTube videos now, which, is nice that they're doing things, but damn! I would hope that maybe things not go up this much in price and be this long on back order.
Yeah, of course. And it's funny because, first of all, the company's name is Triple K, that make the magazines for the Henry AR-7. And every time I've talked to them about it, I'm like, yo, do you have an ETA? They sound just upset at the fact that I asked them, And I'm like, hey, can I get like an ETA in my order? And they're like, why don't you go fuck yourself? How about that? And it seems like how they come off about it too. So I don't know if that's the same with all the markets or all the companies that are making parts and weird magazines and things, but it definitely doesn't make it fun trying to experiment with new stuff either.
Well, I mean, PSA is great. I've had a great time with them. You order gun show up, problem solved.
I think I'm going to get my first PSA here soon.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
I really kind of do want to get a PSA 400 at some point. Not because it is good, but because you can buy 10 of them for the same cost as like a Daniel Defense.
Well, I joined a gun club recently, and their entry fee is that you have to, I think they're doing one gun every 3 months you buy, and it comes to your house, and then you have like a month to do whatever you want with it, and then we go to a gun range and then show them off. So we're starting off with a PSA semi-automatic shotgun for like $250, so hopefully it works pretty well. It's going up against my Remington 1100.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah. Can PSA hold up to...
That's actually a good idea for entry fee, actually. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's like, if you're going to show up, you need to show that you're worth our time, And I'm happy to do it. If there's anything in the world that makes me happier than anything else, it's taking guns, making them ugly, and then taking them out and abusing them. So I think it's a pretty good relationship we got here.
You need to get Bubba to SKS.
I want an SKS. I'm so mad. So I turned... I'm about to date myself, but I turned 18 right after Sandy Hook happened. So
Ooh.
I immediately, so I was on the cusp. Like, I was going to buy my first gun when I turned 18. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to buy an SKS because they're like $50. And then that happened. I turned 18 a couple of months later, and it was like $500 for the same thing. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to worry about it. Now that same gun is like $900, and I keep kicking myself for not buying them even when they were $500 each.
I do not know why SKS go up so much in price. It is stupid. It's to the point where you can get really nice gun instead of SKS. The only people who buy SKS now are LARPers.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I'm also the kind of dude who would absolutely conceal carry a Makarov every day if it didn't cost the same as a brand new Glock.
Fair enough.
Like, it's a tough sell for me on something that old for that price. But damn, if I had turned 18 6 months earlier, you bet you I'd have like 4 of them, because they were like $25 or something.
That would be amazing. Oh, well. Yeah. That's how I feel about munitions these days. I need to buy more ammunition.
Yeah.
A few thousand rounds really isn't enough to go out and play.
No. If you want to keep up on your skill set, you need to have like 1,000 on in stock in your house at all times. That way, when ammunition dries up, you can still go out and practice and do everything you need to do.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you talk to people who aren't gun people, they're like, "You have 200 rounds? That's crazy." And it's like, no, it's like
That's
an
pretty
hour.
standard. That's yeah. 200 rounds is like minimum for going outside at all.
Yeah, it's like combat load's like 270. So, not that I'm
Yeah.
a proponent of taking out a full combat load. Which, since we were talking about weight earlier, please don't. I know there's a lot of people who are like, you need to have 7+1. No, fuck you. No, you don't.
You don't need it, but I do generally try to carry partial combat load. Let's see, how many rounds do I
Of
actually
course.
carry? So the way I have my equipment set up is I have battle belt that has 3 magazines in it, and then I have like the full chest rig. So battle belt and all that equipment can go under a sweater, and you look like normal guy. But when you put on chest rig, then you have additional rounds, you have IVAC, you have additional equipment. So right now I carry 3 on the belt, but only 20 rounds in each one of those. They're 20 round magazines instead of 30. They're a little bit on the small side, but it makes it a lot easier to move. And I'm willing to sacrifice 30 rounds to do that between the 3 of them. And then I carry 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 30 round magazines in chest rig, and then another 20 round in gun. So how many is that total? 80 plus 120, it's 200 rounds, and I have the option to stick 2 more magazines in, which would bring me up to 260 rounds.
Well, let's see. So, if you were to take my normal play carrier setup that I do, it's 3 on the rig and then 1 in the gun. So, way below average. What I will do is
I hear a proper stalker loadout where you count every bullet that you shoot. Because Sidorovich is going to fuck you when you go back to try and buy more.
Absolutely. Then I'll usually have 1 on my belt, and then that's usually all I'll do. However, if I'm going out for a longer day, I hate that 511 are the only people who make these kinds of pants, but 511 pants are usually what I'll wear because the cargo pockets have built-in magazine cells, and you can put an extra 2 on each side, left leg and right leg, if you want to, which would bring your count up quite a bit. So if you wanted to do that, it'd be 4 in the legs, 3 on the chest, 1 on the belt, 1 in the gun.
All right, when I go out, I actually use Carhartt pants. I've tried fatigues, and they're just a shit show for me. Because I do not like fatigues at all because they are either too wide or too short. Because I am too tall to fit them well. And so what I usually do is I have drop leg holster on one side with pistol, and on the other side I have bags. So all my munitions have to go on the belt.
Right. Well, have you ever tried the drop leg M4 holders?
Let me look up what it looked like. I do not have names of everything memorized because I'm Gopnik. Drop leg M4 holster.
Yeah,
M4
so
holster or mag pouch? Okay, those things.
Mag pouch. Yeah.
No, I do not have those. What I have instead is I have a drop leg molly plate,
Okay.
and then I attach my own pouches to that as needed.
It's a good idea. I've seen those before. I've just never thought about using them. I've used I've been using the drop leg M4 pouch holder for like 4 years, and it's definitely not in vogue, but damn, does it really, really come in handy when you just want to toss a couple of extra mags on you.
I suppose that's fair. Drop leg with molly looks like it's about $25 right now. So if you want to experiment, it's not too expensive, but you need to then separately buy your magazine pouches to attach to it.
Right. Well, luckily I have a lot of extra nylon sitting around. Because I do have a lot of fun just kind of swapping out pouches and just experimenting with things.
Yeah, me too. I know how you feel. I've been experimenting with equipment for a few years, and I've finally got a kit that I'm properly happy with now. But you do need to wear a turtleneck when you wear it. It will rub against side of your necks and chafe if you're not wearing turtleneck.
Rough. We'll see. Yeah, I'm about to upgrade my plate carrier to the MMAC, which is an older style, but I found one on eBay that was pristine, and the only problem is that my polyethylene plates that I have don't fit in it, which I didn't know until after I bought it. So now I have to go out and buy yeah, it sucks. So now I just have a plate carrier sitting around that has nothing in it, and one that's suboptimal. So I'm trying to, one of these days I'll go down and we have a local gun store here that sells level 4. What's that 4-person plate company that sells ceramics everybody likes?
That's not nearly specific enough. Which 4-person plate company?
Damn, I gotta look it up. You'll see it in like the GQ threads a lot. Anyway,
I do not
whatever
know
that
off the top
company
of
is.
my head. I got my plates back in the day from LA Police Gear, and it's because they stopped. There was a YouTuber who tested them against M855A1 munitions. So that's the plus P steel-tipped military experimental ammunition. And it stopped one of those, which is sort of a feat. So that's why I got the LAPG one. Although I hear Spartan armor is also very good. And if you really want to go if you really want to get the expensive good plates, go get a Colossus plate. Did you see those?
I have not.
Oh my God! All right, Colossus plate is the craziest shit I've ever seen. I believe it was it Demolition Ranch? It might have been Kentucky Ballistics. I think it was Kentucky Ballistics. No, it was Demo Ranch. Anyway, they did video with Colossus plate, and they shoot it with armor penetrating 50 BMG. And armor penetrating 50 BMG round stop does not penetrate plate. Craziest shit I've ever seen. It's only like 7 pounds each, maybe 8.
That's crazy.
I was going to say, that sounds like fat armor. It is very fat.
I was going to say, like, you can stop a 50 PMG, but unless it's a thick boy, it's just going to fold around you, you know what I mean? You catch it like a clamshell.
No, this thing actually stopped it. So in video, awesome. they do it up against Ballistics Dummy, and Ballistics Dummy get hit dead center with armor penetrating black tip 50 BMG. Pow! Right in the middle. Whole front of plate explode. Back of plate still there. All of Ballistic Dummy ribs broken.
That's insane.
But no hole.
I would love to. I'm gonna have to watch that video when we're done.
Yeah. I will link it to you. I'll link it below this podcast video. By the way, that's also something I'll do. I'll put in reminder.
Thank you. And I'm in the middle of trying to figure out what that other company is. See if you've heard of them. I think I found them right here. That's not it. No, whatever. I'll send you a photo of it later. You can tell me what you think about it.
All right. Yeah, you send me photo later. The other thing that we wanted to bring up, you mentioned it earlier, was communications. So tell us about your experiences with a radio.
Almost all of my experience with radios is on 2 things. Everybody's favorite, the UV5R and CB radios. Those are basically the only 2 I use. And if you check out any of my stuff, you'll see that the UV5Rs, they work, except for when they don't work. It's really hit or miss depending on how they go back and forth. The hardest part, of course, is getting everybody on the same everybody on the same page about how to get it to work properly, because nobody studies radios unless you're like the radio guy in the group, which is why I kind of back and forth.
There's usually a radio guy in every group.
Yes, there's a radio guy, and unfortunately, the radio guy is never around when the radios start having problems. It feels like.
I've noticed that one too. I have Baofeng UV5R. Because that's, again, a lot of this sort of equipment stuff started back in 2020 when I throw my hands up and say, all right, fine, if there's time to get expensive rifle and equipment, now is it. But I have found that the Meshtastic system is a superior radio system to a regular UV radio, to a regular Baofeng or CB radio setup.
Right. And we talked about that a little bit offline. I did some more research after we talked about it, and I'm actually kind of interested to see what your take is, because it seems like a lot of the information I'm getting is a little bit different from what your experience is there that you told me in the past. Like, I've noticed a lot of people having a lot of trouble with line of sight comms.
Well, all right, so that is something that is limited, but that's also going to be something that's limited with like a Baofeng, because you do not have very powerful broadcast. So if you're broadcasting from Baofeng in shortwave, you can get some pretty long distances out of it, but the furthest that you can get with a Baofeng radio has to do with your specific broadcast frequency, your specific broadcast amplitude. With 915 megahertz, which is what Meshtastic run on, you can broadcast on the open network 915 megahertz, and you can rebroadcast from repeaters that you place in the area. So if you're looking for a mesh-tastic system to behave like Baofeng system, you're probably not quite going to get there. But what you do get with mesh-tastic system is you get encrypted communications, which you cannot get with normal civilian radios legally. And you also get the ability that it's line of sight in both negative and positive side. It is line of sight in negative side where if you put big hill between you and your friend, you cannot directly communicate. It is line of sight in positive side where if your friend hike up big ridge a couple of miles away and can see you, then you can communicate. So there's not really range limitation on mesh-tastic system in the same way that there is on Baofeng system. So the advantage of mesh-tastic then is your radio guy who wants to invest in radios, instead of buying 4 or 5 Baofeng, he can buy 5 or 6 repeaters, and then every person in his crew can buy $40 T1K tracker repeater. As long as everybody has charged equipment, then whenever you travel, what you can do is you can leave large repeater that radio guy buy up on top of ridge, and everybody else ties their regular radio system, their small tracker radio, to their cell phone, so they don't need any large investment.
Right.
That's my position on that.
Because I was kind of interested in it, like, I think you do a lot of, like, mountain stuff, guessing on your content that you've made, right?
Oh yeah, I am up in
Which is
mountains,
super different,
where I am.
Because I do, where I'm at, everything is super, super flat. Like, you have to drive 6 or 7 hours before you see a hill. So I'm wondering how much I can get away with without getting repeaters or anything. I've seen some people stick them on drones and things to get it out there.
All right, so I have seen S2, I believe it was S2 Underground, who did, no, it was somebody else who did drone experiment with mesh-tastic. What they did is they stick it on drone up in Appalachian Mountains, and they send drone up maybe 1,000 feet, and then they start pinging other mesh-tastic systems that are 50, 60 miles away.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because, right now, even with a Baofeng, I think the furthest we were getting coherent radio was probably like 5 miles. And that was just using, Amazon special out-of-the-box antennas and things, which, like I said, my backup radio system is CBs, and you're not going to get 5 miles out of a handheld CB radio. You'll get real good comms up until about half a mile to a mile, but that's as far as you're going to push it. So if I can take it out further than that, that's super, super nice. We're kind of, we'll say the crew, quote unquote, is pretty spread out around here.
Yeah, so if you have a spread out crew, what mesh-tastic can do is if you prepare your AO with these devices, then you're basically set. So I have mesh-tastic device here and there, and I have repeater network that was really just sort of kludged together because I wanted to see if it would work, and I've been very impressed by how well it works so far.
Okay.
Now, the main disadvantage of mesh-tastic is long range. It's very close to noise level, so you can get signal to noise ratios as low as like 0 or 1 in this case. So where signal is basically at level of noise, and you can do very long distances, but it's low bandwidth, so you cannot do voice communications. You can only send message in the form of text, GPS coordinates, things like that. With that said, though, if communication systems go down, none of us who like to go and do stupid things in the woods and pretend to be autistic, none of us are in position to call for air support on the radio and immediately get response. So most of our radio purposes in making of use is that the radio back and forth is for conveying, sharing, and maintaining an information network. And mesh-tastic is very good for that, even if you have to stop and take your gloves off to type in a message. Because if you're not in a position to stop and type in a message, that you're probably not in a great position to be communicating at all. And that includes by Baofeng. You're not getting medevac that comes in 60 seconds after you make the call. You are maybe letting your friend know that somebody shoot at you from the woods. If your friend knows to be listening, they will hear, right?
Right.
So that's one of the big advantages. Well, not advantages, but it's one of the mitigating factors for the primary disadvantage of mesh-tastic system. The other thing is, if you prepare your area of operation, you're basically set. So for your situation, large flat area, what I would recommend is get helium tank and balloon. Legitimately, helium tank and balloon, send balloon up 40 feet, and you transmit message. And 40, 50 feet, that will be plenty to get you out several miles in all likelihood. to your buddies. If you're doing it at your house, put up big pole.
Well, here's another
There's
one, right?
pretty easy ways to set these things up. Go on.
So when I do anything camping, stalker, challenge related, right, I always have a safety set, X amount of distance away, usually a couple of miles. They're in like a hotel or something. That way, if anything goes wrong, I can have a quick access to them on top of normal 911. So if you're going to do that kind of thing and you have a safety, like you should, not everybody does it, right? But if you're trying to be extra safe like I do, it sounds like an excellent way that you can get in a quick message out to somebody if something goes wrong without having to rely on cell reception.
Yep, makes
And
sense.
I do find that to be super appealing. You can't see me sitting here stroking my facial hair, but I'm sitting here and there's ideas going through my head.
The follow-up advantage, I think, to Meshtastic system that you would be able to define here is that not only can you transmit message, you can also have a perpetual transmission that contains your GPS coordinates, and you can do
Right.
that on encrypted channel.
Interesting.
So nobody gets
Yeah.
to see your GPS coordinate but your buddy.
Right. Which also has its advantages for other kinds of activities.
Yes, of course. But so when you're out in the woods and something go wrong, you can send your buddy message. It shows up as little notification on his phone, and you say, "Hey, broke leg, come and get me," and it should show exactly where you are when you transmit that message to within 40 or 50 feet.
Interesting. Okay. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was through my research, I saw that a lot of Meshtastic, some of the smaller, cheaper devices are awesome because they're affordable, but some of their performances are not great. Is there like an entry-level self-contained unit, we'll say like under the $200 range, for somebody who wanted to get into it and just jump right in and have something that's comprehensive and cohesive to use?
I'm
That you
making
know
a note
about.
to, yeah, sure. There's three off the top of my head. So the way I recommend setting up, I have not actually had the chance to experiment with this, but there's three entry level devices where they're basically ready to go out of the box. There is the LilyGo T Echo, and I will pop up little picture of that on the screen now. There's LilyGo T Echo. There is the Seed Tracker T1000E, which is the one that you get for your friends, or the one you have your friends get. They're $40. They're very cheap. Easy to use in the field and waterproof and can stand up to quite a lot of beating. So the idea is that maybe if you have a fire team out, what you have is you give one guy LilyGo T Echo and you give everybody else in fire team these little trackers because they're less powerful, but they don't really need to be that powerful anyway, unless you're going through a whole bunch of trees or buildings.
Right.
And then if you do that, you have one guy with more powerful radio. And then I believe there's another one called the Miru. The Miru Meshtastic device, if I can find it. I have not looked these up in a little while. Up there it is. What are these called? So Muzi, sorry, not Miru. It is Muzi Meshtastic device. And those are really high quality as far as I can tell. That's what I've heard. They're about $90 each. And I would also recommend maybe have one of those with you. So they have a Muzi with an external antenna, a complete Meshtastic device, and that would be really good to take out into the woods. For the guy in charge of the fire team, he would have one of those, and everyone else would have a T1000E. And then for like your truck or whatever, maybe you put together a T-beam for it with a big antenna, or you use some similar device. There's a couple of other odd devices that are compatible with the software. And so what you do is you set up big antenna on truck, maybe stand on top of pole if you don't have tree to set it up in nearby or tall building to climb on top of.
Right.
And then you carry one of these Muzi devices with you, and then your friend in the hotel a few miles away, he has Muzi device also. So you should be able to remain in contact at all times, especially in flat terrain.
Yeah, all right, that's good because I am definitely more of an operator versus a technician type of guy, right? If it's there's a reason why I have a radio guy instead of being the radio guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I do.
I really enjoy. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening are kind of similar to me. Like if it's not plug and play, I have a difficulty getting into it. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
have the same
It's
problem,
super
which is
useful.
why I'm working on these devices. What I
Yeah,
really like about it is that it ties to cell phone directly. Depending on battery life, because ATAC eats your battery, both for your phone and Meshtastic devices. But if you have ATAC, there's actually plugin that combines ATAC information with Meshtastic information, so you can do things like pre-download maps, send updated coordinates, and see everybody's GPS location all in one go.
interesting. Yeah, I would love to see you do some testing with it too on your channel, where you like just go out as far as you can with two people, and
Well,
see
the
how well
problem
your
is where I
connections are.
am, I'm not limited. I'm not limited by the distance that this can communicate. I'm entirely limited by the ridges, line of sight, and where the highway goes. So if I can get one of these devices up on top of a ridge nearby, I can cover entire city.
Interesting. Well, that would be a fun little experiment too, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, when I get to
The
that point,
quest on a ridge.
that might be next summer's project is to set one of these little boys up. But once it's set up, I will have wireless off-grid communications for entire area.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I wish.
And
I just recently moved, so I don't have really anybody to communicate with at the moment. But if I did, this would be super interesting, and depending on how often people come up here, it might be well worth looking into.
Well,
So I
what I
moved.
like about it, one of the things that you could do is you could theoretically, this is more or less how I did it, is I just buckled down and spent the, for $200. But if you get two Musi devices, two tracker cards, T1000 tracker, and one Musi device. Leave Musi device in your truck, plug it in, and let it charge whenever you're doing things. And then you have one tracker. You give tracker to friend, and the two of you can experiment whenever you're within a few miles of each other.
Awesome. Yeah, comms are one of those things that's super over my head, but super interesting. It's frustrating because like I look at hertz ranges as an example, and I'm like, but I find it super fascinating anyway.
Yeah, I do. I'm in exactly the same position. I like comms, but I do not want to have to get entire amateur radio license in order to perform basic functions.
Yeah, and especially since guess what? The other people who are with you probably don't have ham licenses either.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
I've heard of like one guy locally who I have some connection with who I think has a ham license, but does not
yeah,
really use it for much. And everybody's basically trying to get him to teach them how to use their damn Baofeng at this point. So I just threw up my hands and went with different system because I know I can get second system to work because it runs on cell phone.
absolutely. And if there's one thing I always have on me, it is the cell phone, and I can always get it to work when I need it to, or at least within reason.
Yeah. If you do a Meshtastic system, they have a Discord where you can ask them questions, and I'd recommend doing so when something doesn't work the first couple of times because there's a couple of finicky bits with the software for how it functions, and if you're not used to it, you can easily miss something critical, like having to reset radio frequency, for instance, can be a problem if you don't know you're supposed to do that.
Awesome. Do you have what other gear would you like to talk about tonight? Yeah, are you into cutlery at all? Knives?
I usually use cheap knife when I'm out, to be honest, because I do not want to be afraid of breaking expensive knife.
I'm super happy you brought that up because I recently saw a competition of what is the best cheap combat knife on the market, and they came down to the Klein duct knife. So I went ahead and picked one up. It's $16, and I'm very excited. It's you get it from Lowe's of all places or Home Depot, and I have
Oh,
this thing sitting here. Yeah, yeah. It's not a combat knife. It's a knife for people who are doing like carpentry work, but it looks and
I see
feels like a
it.
combat knife. Um, and I took it out of the blister packaging it's in because it's super high quality all the way around, right? And out of the box,
Mhm.
I was able to shave my whole arm with it. So
Wow, really?
yeah, yeah, it's actually insane. So, just as a plug for Klein tools, I guess. And I think I saw Milwaukee also makes a version of it with a red hilt instead of a black one, or scales with it. And I'm very excited to take this thing out and experiment with it and put it through its paces because I'm always looking for cheap knives. Usually, I go with the classic Mora, but
Yeah.
but there's just something super funny about taking out like a tool for using for plaster and doing a whole camp out with it. And actually, it's sharp enough you could definitely like process a fish or an animal with it if you wanted to as well.
That's good to know. I will keep that in mind as an option. Right now,
Yeah,
what I've been doing is I've just been using whatever cheap knife I could find that had a nice Tyvek sheath for it because I want a knife that fits on battle belt.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one thing about the Klein is the sheath for it leaves something to be desired. You could say it's built for a carpenter and not for outdoor use, but it definitely has potential. And all of my
Yeah, I did
all
notice when I was
I take
looking
out
at it. Go on.
yeah. When I was all the knives that I have, I usually use fairly nice high-end ones, but that's because I take them, I put them on my plate carrier, and then I zip tie them in place so they can't come off.
Yeah.
At least the sheaths. But I'll tell you what, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, I don't know if I want to take this super nice knife out here and lose it. So maybe I'll take I'll figure out a way to do this. I'm a very zip tie duct tape kind of dude when it comes to making my gear work. You know.
I mean, that's
And,
not a bad way to go. Go on.
No, it's during some of my my past job experience and past work experience, that kind of thing worked very well for me, and I think it continues to work in the future. But yeah, just as a side note, right, when it comes to the cheap knives that fit onto gear, I'm always a big fan of the fixed blade for sure if you can get it.
Oh, it has to be
If
fixed
not,
blade because I will destroy it if it's not fixed blade. That's why I don't get expensive knife. I'm very hard on them.
There's a couple of folding knives also that I've been using for outdoor work. What is it? There's a New Zealand knife. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And unfortunately, the actual product doesn't have the name labeled on it. Oh, Morniv. Oh, what the hell? It's not Morniv. Whatever it is. It's another one. Svord. S-V-O-R-D. Svord Mini. Which is a folding knife that has a really unique design that actually kind of lends itself well to batoning.
Really?
And those things are only like $7. And they're folding. They use a friction fold thing, so there's really nothing that can break on it. And if you're looking for something that's really cheap and consistently nice to use, it's got a super sharp. It's another one of those ones you can buy and you can basically shave with it out of the box. And I like to take
nice.
like one of those. Yeah, and I'll take one of those and I'll throw them in my kit too, just as a backup, because sometimes the fixed blade ones fail. Like I said, I like going out in the woods and breaking my guns, and I also like going out and breaking my knives too. So having things that are easy to replace and cheap is very handy, and I would recommend you do it too.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're going to go out LARPing in zone, you can either buy the most expensive and best equipment, or you can buy equipment that works and that you're not afraid to break. And that's really one of the problems. Like, you don't want to be afraid to break or lose your equipment.
Oh,
one of the
I just want to point out.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that the Strellick did not go out with the nicest knife that he had. He had a $5 Walmart Rambo look-alike knife, and he did just fine with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, in video game is basically real life, as we all know. But
as we all know.
You don't want to be afraid of breaking your equipment. I mean, if you're not doing something because you're afraid of breaking your equipment, you need cheaper equipment. And that's something that I always recommended back in the day in person when I was talking to people, is that if you're looking to buy tactical equipment, if you're looking to buy like harness or if you're looking to buy a plate carrier, find the cheapest piece of garbage you can and take that out in the woods first. For two reasons.
Absolutely.
One reason is because then you're not afraid to break it or roll around in the mud with it. Doesn't matter. It's as cheap as you can get. And the second reason is if you go out again, or if you want to actually get good equipment, you will know exactly why that didn't work and what features you want on a better piece of equipment. So if you're actually going to spend the money, you should buy garbage first, so that way you haven't overspent and you know exactly what you're looking for when you go back into it later. And then if it does work, if it works exactly the way you want it to, now you do not need to buy expensive equipment. Because a cheap piece of garbage works, and now you're not afraid to break it.
And eBay is your friend.
Yes.
Listen, if it didn't work for somebody else, it might work for you, and it'll be significantly cheaper than it would be to buy it brand new out of the box.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no reason that you should be breaking the bank to get stupid LARPer equipment. Most of the equipment I have, I mean, how much have I spent in total on equipment? Not all that much. The most expensive things I have spent on equipment for are maybe gas mask that I go out LARP in, excluding rifle, of course, rifle and optic. It's probably
Yeah.
just gas mask that I go out LARP in. No, it is probably battle belt, actually. Battle belt is most expensive thing. Gas mask was close to most expensive thing. But battle belt is most expensive thing, and that is with all the stuff that I put on it combined. And that's because I get the first battle belt and it was garbage and I wear it for a year and know exactly what I want when I get better battle belt. I know why it didn't work, I know what I want, and I know how to set up my gear to make it work better in the future. So
Right.
that's one of the few pieces, and it was at a gun show. I go to gun show and they had this really nice battle belt for sale. I'm like, okay, I know I'm being ripped off a little bit here, but I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me up. This is too nice to let go of.
Right. And on the same, like as an NVG enjoyer, right? I have a lot of. I'm picky about helmets, right? Not
makes
just
sense.
for night vision stuff. In my opinion, if you're going to be crawling around inside of dilapidated buildings and structures, you should probably have something to protect your noggin on anyway, right? Whether it be ballistic or not, just because things fall sometimes, or sometimes you're not looking in the right place and run into something. But my favorite helmet that I got is a early 2000s PTA Bravo for $5 off of some ex-SEAL dude who was selling it out of his garage, and I got it off of Facebook Marketplace. And I understand why you would want a $300 bump helmet. Yes, they fit a lot better. Yes, they're a lot easier to use. But for $5, I can take that thing anywhere, and if it cracks, I don't care. And I can get another one.
And yeah, that's something to be thinking about. Like there's nothing wrong with wear bump helmet while you're out LARPing.
Right,
Realistically, if you need to be wearing sustainment gear, you're probably not wearing heavy helmet too. The primary purpose of helmet anyway is because of IEDs. Things go
right,
boom, shrapnel go everywhere, helmet catch shrapnel. If you're not likely to be around IED, and you're definitely not, then there's no reason to be wearing helmet out in the woods that is full NIJ3 compliant. Bump helmet is good enough.
right. And even if listen, all I'm saying is that the old dudes, they used to use Protec skateboard helmets. They put them on their head and drill holes into it if they needed to put stuff on it, but for the most part, they didn't. Not that you should be comparing yourself to Spec Ops, but I'm just saying, if they're good enough for them, it's good enough for you crawling over a couple of boards in some dude's abandoned house that nobody's been in for 20 years. you know?
I did that the other day.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I've seen that. I've seen enough people get bumps in places that could have been avoided. That I now wear one. I don't wear a helmet for night vision use that often. Most of the time, almost 100%, is just because I'm standing inside of something and don't want to hit my head.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
you can get construction helmets or whatever if you want to do that for super cheap too. But they don't fit the vibe and they're not the right color. And we
That's
all know
true.
that that's the most
They are not
important
the
thing.
right color. The color matters for this. The color does matter.
Yeah.
Except for your patches. Your morale patches can be whatever color you want.
Absolutely. Matter of fact,
Go
some of
ahead.
my favorite ones are orange and bright blue and whatever. Mostly because, for practicality reasons, even though the helmet is the right color, I still want my friends to see me when I'm standing in random weird places. Especially when they have firearms and things. So, would
Yeah, that's
recommend that you
probably
wear
a good
bright
idea,
patches
let's
if you
be
can get them.
honest. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you don't. You're more likely to be shot by friend going out doing dumb things than you are to be shot by anyone else. So
Right.
that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yes. Uh,
That's why I recommend your IFAC. Have you seen my IFAC video, by the way?
I did. I watched the whole thing. It is very comprehensive, and I've actually been updating some of my gear in accordance with how you do things because some of my prior experience doing this kind of stuff doesn't really apply to what I'm doing now. So I don't see any reason to keep it around.
Yeah, so my thought, to reiterate for the listeners, and I will try and link to the IFAC video in this, is that your IFAC is not for wait for medevac. Your IFAC is for hike 3 miles out with your retarded friend who got shot in the foot.
Yes.
That's what it's for. And if you
Or
cannot do that, and still have enough leftover equipment to take care of yourself if something else happens, then your IFAC too
right.
small.
And I just did a stalk a couple of weeks ago. You're not going to see the footage for a little bit, I don't think. But one of the guys who was with me, as I mentioned before, I do a lot of boat landings, less hiking these days,
Yeah.
and he got out of the boat and. Because it got bottomed out in mud, so he got out to get the boat unstuck, and his water shoes got caught in mud and pulled off of his feet. So
Oh, that's
go
a
a little bit
problem.
further. It is a problem, yeah. Shit happens while you're out in the woods, you know. And we got out to where the boat was actually going to land for our camp out, and he got out, and underneath the water where you just couldn't quite see it was a bed of oysters, and he stepped on it and sliced his foot pretty bad, pretty deep, pretty bad. And we got it fixed. Unfortunately, we'll say by the time we got it fixed, he was a little inebriated, which made it more difficult than it needed to be. But we got it fixed up, and I was like, nobody had super glue on him, and it would have been the
Oh
nicest thing ever.
no.
Yeah, it was awful. We ended up getting one of our guys ended up leaving a day early, and he lives with a nurse, and he got a video of my guy's foot, and he shows it to her, and she's like, "Oh man, yeah, that's really bad. That's really deep. He's obviously like emergency care getting that taken care of, right?" And he's like, "No, he's still out there." And we dealt with it for an extra day, you know, but having the right tools for the job would have made it way easier. And it was funny because we had another guy with us who had his IFAK, and he pops it open. He's like, "Yeah, sorry, man, this is all for gunshot wounds." And he goes, "Well, yeah, what do you want? You want to shoot the wound and then fix it that way, or like you got anything that'll actually help me?" You know?
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Is going out to stalker things is very different from going out to combat zone. I mean,
Right.
you do have risk of being shot. You should have equipment in IFAC for dealing with gunshot wound, but it's much more likely you twist ankle 6 miles up into the mountains and have to hike out, and that is problem.
Right. Obviously, you need to have a couple of IFAKs around just for the sake of safety, but like the practical stuff you're actually going to be using is not that.
Yeah, and
But,
so put it all in one part together, keep it with you. That way, whatever happens, you have Boo Kit to take care of it, you have Chest Seal to take care of it.
right. And I don't know. I kind of want to make like one large Boo Boo slash IFAK kit. I just can't think of a way of attaching it to my gear and making it small enough it's not going to bump into everything. So we'll see. Maybe
That is exactly why I switched to H harness. GCS H harness is because that has space for IFAK kit and regular backpack. That is the primary reason, is because I wanted to put IFAK on something that I could easily put on, take off.
yeah. And so like as a plate carrier user, I know there's a couple of people who make like large lunchbox danglers for the front. Maybe I could try that out. That have quick detach on them for that exact kind of thing. It just seems like it's a lot, you know. And
It is a
the
lot.
thing is that if you have it attached to the plate carrier, right? I'm not always wearing a plate carrier when I get out and I get the camp set up and everything. Even though on camera, a lot of the time I'll be wearing it. I don't always have it on. But when you don't have the carrier on, that's when something always goes wrong and you have to go back and get it, you know. So there's no way of like attaching it to your belt and having it be usable at the same time that I can think of.
So what I did
Or at
for
least
a
not for me, it's my
while,
current setup.
so what I did for a while, and you can see this in some of my videos, is I would actually, I would carry a backpack, a FLC, and battle belt. And I would put IFAK on FLC when I was hiking, and when I take FLC off, I would move IFAK to battle belt. And then it sort of rides on your ass, which isn't entirely comfortable, but worked. So that is something that you can do, is you can, if you have something that can tie or that can quick detach from your plate carrier, you might be able to attach it to like loops on a battle belt or loops on a regular belt, so that you can carry it around like fanny pack when you're not wearing plate carrier. But again, that's another minute or two of fucking around just to get your gear in shape when you take off your ballistic vest.
Yeah, and I'm definitely on team. Once I take it off, I don't want to touch it again until I need it, you know? So if I can have it permanently affixed to what I'm usually wearing, regardless of what else is on me, what is it called? First line gear, usually like your belt setup, or belt plus what's in your pocket setup, you know? That's what I want to move to in the future, but
Yeah, the problem is they're just very big. A proper like Boo kit plus IFAK plus an extra person of stuff is very big and is sort of a pain in the ass to carry around in terms of volume.
it might be worth it to make a bunch of small ones and then hand them out to people when you go out, you know, just so you know exactly what's in them Make sure that they know how to affix it to their kit so that you can access it if you need to, or if somebody else can.
That's not a terrible idea. Basically, you could cut it in half. It'll still be big, but it won't be as big.
Right, and depending on how many people are in your squad. My last one was, I think there was 5 of us before one of the guys had to cut out early. And with 5 people, medical equipment for 5 people is insane. But the chances of all of you needing an IFAC at the same time is pretty low, and the chances of all of you needing a boo-boo kit at the same time is pretty low. Not zero, but pretty low.
This doesn't show in any of my videos, I don't think, but I actually have 2 big IFACs. So as was shown in the video how I put big IFAC together, I actually have 2 of them. So when I go out with people, usually it's me and 2 or 3 other people. It is not uncommon. I will have one, and one of the other guys will have one, and then 2 people will be without equipment, without medical equipment entirely because they didn't bring their own stuff. Right. But what you can do is, and this is something that I'd recommend you consider, is if you have somebody whose equipment does accommodate big IFAC, then you give him big IFAC and everybody else take little one with basic boo-boo kit in it and basic gunshot wounds material in it. And then big IFAC covers 2 people for a much more thorough level of treatment. And this is sort of how military does it with designated medical officer in sort of squads or fire teams.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know what else there is really to cover tonight. I would like to split this up with another podcast where we can talk about like smaller gear that people don't think about, like extra flashlights and how those work.
Yeah.
Glow sticks, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, plan for that. So it's been about an hour. That's pretty standard timing for a decent podcast, at least one worth listening to. So what we'll do is we'll end it here, and maybe we'll do something else in the future and have further discussion then.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much for having me on. This has been a very enlightening experience running into you, and I can't wait to see what stuff you pump out in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. I very much enjoy your videos, and it would be fun to get together at some point if we were not on opposite sides of country. So, yeah, looking forward. I think that we can do something. I think that we could do something pretty cool in a second podcast at some point. So we should try and do that. All right.
Absolutely.
I will see you, and I will see our audience later.